Now again, the first 7 verses give us the account. And as we flow through these verses, we identify certain features that become the hooks to hang our thoughts on. First is the solicitor. The solicitor. That is Satan. Introduced to us in verse 1, the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And here we are introduced to the solicitor, the one who solicits sin, the one who is the tempter. This is a real reptile, as we've already learned, because he's compared to other beasts of the field. This is not a supernatural creature. This isn't a figment of imagination in the mind of Eve, as Jewish scholars have always believed, that there never really was a serpent, that was just something going on in the mind of Eve. But it clearly indicates this was a serpent. This was a nakash. This was some kind of reptile. A synonym to that is the word tanin, used as a synonym in some places and translated dragon. And Revelation 12:9 and Revelation 20 verse 2 describe Satan as a serpent and a dragon, some kind of reptile. And in this case, an upright reptile coming up and holding a conversation with Eve. More intelligent, more crafty. The word crafty means intelligent or wise than any other animal, because this animal was merely an instrument for Satan. Satan was talking through the animal, and therefore the animal had supernatural wisdom, not in its own animal life, but because it was an instrument of a supernatural creature, namely Satan. Satan, as you remember, fell. He was Lucifer, son of the morning, probably the praise leader of heaven, and he decided he wanted to be like God. He wanted to be like the Most High God. And so God threw him out of heaven along with a third of the other holy angels, and they constitute Satan and his demons. So when cast out of heaven, he then goes down to earth and attempts to bring the rebellion into the perfection of the earth. He comes as the primary solicitor of evil. He still is behind evil in our world. Obviously, we are all sinful, and so evil is in us. But he is still the main solicitor. He's still, not that he comes individually to everybody and solicits like he did Eve, but he has developed a world system. He has developed a world cosmos, a world order that becomes the source by which he tempts. Through many avenues in the world, temptation comes at people. He is still the primary solicitor of evil. Since the time his own rebellion was quashed in heaven by God and he was thrown out, he has become the number one adversary of God and the number one adversary of man. And so he continues even today and will always be, until he is cast into the lake of fire, the primary solicitor of evil. So we saw the solicitor. Secondly, we began to see the strategy, starting in verse 1. We followed the dialogue. He said to the woman, "Indeed has God said, you shall not eat from any tree of the garden." Now remember, his strategy is lies and deception. It's not any different now than it was then. So the main solicitor is working primarily through lies. Disguising himself as an angel of light, he is really the angel of hell. Disguising himself as a speaker of truth, he is a speaker of lies. He is a liar and the father of lies, it says in John 8:44. And what he wants to do is to get people to believe that God doesn't tell the truth. To get people to believe that they have a right to question God and they have a right to doubt that God has told them the truth. He really solicits people to believe God lies and he tells the truth. And that's what he did. He says in a very somewhat benign way initially to Eve, "You shall not eat from any tree of the garden." Is that what God said? Let's talk about what God said. That is, in fact, similar to what God said. God said they could eat from any tree of the garden, every tree of the garden, but there was one tree that they were not to eat of. Well, Satan sort of introduces the issue. Let's talk about God's prohibition. And this is where solicitation to temptation comes initially. It comes when you question God.